bandages in the pen. I know a few cuts and the bandage come with a win, but I feel like it's too much damage to fake amends. Restoring balance after revenge. Trips on the high road are now over and you know the reason. 'Tis the season for sowing and reaping. Point still for how you hope we even. Thinking about that wildlife until they realize it's open season. Lacking on endless ain't no coming to. Never seem to back up what they say once in front of you. Never been too humble of a dude to humble dudes. You messing with the one who's always been the number two. It get quiet on the set when it's time for action. Words don't match verbs, they need closed captions. It's kinda funny now that no one's laughing. They need my reaction to attract attraction. But I don't do favors, brought light to truth like room raiders. Niggas want beef, I'll soon cater. Keep a magazine, don't assume fader. Plans to move on can resume later. I check haters with chess moves. Only execution, no excuse. There's things that you need to confess to. Don't let your pride be your reason for check use. When you son niggas, they feel the need to throw shade. I'd rather hear lies and see it quoted on your grave. Niggas jealous. Meanwhile, tour buses taking road trips on the same road that you claiming to have paved. And where pit stops should be obvious. But if not, just know it involves deposit slips. Going live, preaching love, but show the opposite. Can't apologize, too busy being an apologist. You know, views from the top take more than clicks. It ain't over yet, there's a score to fix. Got a lot on my chest, it take more than Vic. Should've paid me my respect way before the split. Foot on their necks and I don't plan on going gentile. Ziggin talking crazy like them Intel. Guess that's what happens when you let too much of the fame get to your tempel. Life's about principle, I'm just spitting like I'm Pimpel. The nerve you getting is in what you do for titles. Backstabbing the people that help with your survival. Get ahead and start making the realest your rivals. Fall off and need a number to dial for revival. Need a medic to check all his vitals. Plain to see my arrival was vital. They're playing the part in which you're downward spiral. But you haven't spoken reasons why you really viral. It's cold when you lie without a blanket. Keep you up at night thinking how your name is tainted. Perfect time to quarantine, ain't it? Hope you and your senses get more acquainted. Views from the top take more than clicks. Score to fix. More than Vicks. Before the split.
This down to the end exclusive.
Chessboard over the headboard. Learn how my enemies move and get prepared for it. Ops plotting on everything that I bled for. Just remember to guard your head before you head for it. Put away swords as advantages in a pen. I know a few cuts and the bandage come with a win, but I feel like it's too much damage to fake amends. Restoring balance after revenge. Trips on the high road are now over and you know the reason. 'Tis the season for sowing and reaping. Point still for how you hope we even. Thinking about that wildlife until they realize it's open season. Lacking on endless ain't no coming to. Never seem to back up what they say once in front of you. Never been too humble of a dude to humble dudes. You messing with the one who's always been the number two. It get quiet on the set when it's time for action. Words don't match verbs, they need closed captions. It's kinda funny now that no one's laughing. They need my reaction to attract attraction. But I don't do favors, brought light to truth like room raiders. Niggas want beef, I'll soon cater. Keep a magazine, don't assume fader. Plans to move on can resume later. I check haters with chess moves. Only execution, no excuse. There's things that you need to confess to. Don't let your pride be your reason for check use. When you son niggas, they feel the need to throw shade. I'd rather hear lies and see it quoted on your grave. Niggas jealous. Meanwhile, tour buses taking road trips on the same road that you claiming to have paved. And where pit stops should be obvious. But if not, just know it involves deposit slips. Going live, preaching love, but show the opposite. Can't apologize, too busy being an apologist. You know, views from the top take more than clicks. It ain't over yet, there's a score to fix. Got a lot on my chest, it take more than Vic. Should've paid me my respect way before the split. Foot on their necks and I don't plan on going gentile. Ziggin talking crazy like them Intel. Guess that's what happens when you let too much of the fame get to your tempel. Life's about principle, I'm just spitting like I'm Pimpel. The nerve you getting is in what you do for titles. Backstabbing the people that help with your survival. Get ahead and start making the realest your rivals. Fall off and need a number to dial for revival. Need a medic to check all his vitals. Plain to see my arrival was vital. They're playing the part in which you're downward spiral. But you haven't spoken reasons why you really viral. It's cold when you lie without a blanket. Keep you up at night thinking how your name is tainted.
This episode of the Cab Grand Rising Show is brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. For the first-time visitors who may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly is, Autochthonous Assembly, or A2 for short, is a gathering of minds that do the work. A2 is a non-profit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous Americans' voices by using genealogy, also known as family history or family tree. Genealogy is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages in history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Autochthonous Assembly's core values are the foundation of its company, essential to its success, and serves as the lens through which it evaluates every business decision. The core values are integrity, know and do what is right, respect, treating others the way you want to be treated, responsibility, embrace opportunities to contribute, servant leadership, serve the common good. Along with a key emphasis on genealogy, A2 is also committed to providing our communities with information and access to available grants and funding through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the United States Department of Agriculture, the Farm Service Agency, and other departments and agencies that offer programs to help them become self-sufficient. Building on a strong community reputation, Autochthonous Assembly continues to strengthen the growth of the relationship and development of our communities. Peace and Grand Rising.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Atlanta, Georgia. This summer is officially about to be on fire. Remember when Grandma used to say you had Indian in you? Well, where did the Indian go? Get ready. The No Grandma Killers Tour will be taking over ATL Southside. Make sure you mark your calendars for this upcoming major event. You definitely don't want to sleep on this one. Make sure you're in the building with the Wild Factors family. We got the Sister Phoenix Moon, Tasha Sheep, Coach Crew Cut, Johnny Aborigine, Kerry Davis, Lisa Cypress, Gabriel Rich, Omar Crazy, and more surprise guests. Shout out to Chief County and Slick Bull, who will definitely be in the building with more surprise guests and the Wild Indians. For all vendors looking to be a part of this event, make sure you contact 980-216-6693. Or for more information on this event and how to purchase your ticket, make sure you email www.nograndmakillers.com. July 3rd through the 4th, the No Grandma Killers Tour will be taking place at Space Condo Live, 737 Veterans Parkway, Suite 500, Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236. Yeah, it's definitely going down in ATL. So many generations in either public housing or in underdeveloped housing that's been allowed to go and dilapidate and to become a blight on the community. We allow this stuff to persist. Yep. And then we wake up a couple generations later and they're telling us to leave. Why? They're telling us to leave because they've allowed the property value of the area to sink to what it is, because they've essentially let everything become a slum in that area. And so now, generations later, relate this to the reservation. What they told you the conditions were like in some of these reservations after they were set up to hold these Indians. Those reservations, as we heard before, became the housing projects. They allow this area to be infertile. They allow this area to become destitute and dilapidated and become a blight on the surrounding community. And so at some point you have the community get together and say, look, we need to get these people out of here because the crime is this, the drugs are that. Nobody's making any money here. Nobody wants to come visit us here. There's no tourism. Nobody's spending any money, so let's get the undesirables out. This is how we're convinced to become an underclass so that we can be removed. This is how gentrification happens.
Yep. My first ever time witnessing that was Ida Barber in Portsmouth. Copper. They sent people out there. I had a little girlfriend over there when I was in middle school. Her name was Isis. And I was like, next thing you know, she disappeared. I was
Yeah.
like, what the heck happened? And the next
Mhm.
time I ever drove over there, it was boarded up. And then the next time I drove over there, it was new housing.
Yeah, they raised all of it, flattened everything, and rebuilt it within a couple months. And
It was ridiculous.
I
had
grew
never seen nothing
up,
like it.
yeah, I grew up down the street from my apartment, down on Elm Avenue,
See, there you go.
right?
J-Dub was next, right?
That's right.
Yeah, the old
the
Norfolk.
Dub was next, and my wife
Yep.
was from. My wife she wasn't born in the Dub. She lived in the Dub before they tore it down.
Yep, my step family was in the Dub, the extension. I had people in Lincoln Park and in J-Dub.
Right. Look what's over there now. Look at that built
I
on
don't
the
even
shopping centers.
Yeah.
They built shopping centers.
What was
they
it?
got
Midtown or whatever, where the
Mid-City.
Walmart was at?
Yeah, Mid-City where Walmart is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they built a
got built
Walmart
up.
there. They got a Chick-fil-A down the street.
Yep.
They built a whole
Chick-fil-A
shopping center up, Kroger and everything. They got all. It looks nice, it's beautiful
Yep.
over there now. They
got the laundromat over there. Yep.
They tore all of that stuff down. But how many generations of people lived in the Dub?
It's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it's almost like tearing down Northam in general. Tearing down things that just existed. I mean, even if it was dilapidated, it's like crazy. That was a class. That was a school.
Mm-hmm.
That was the generations of people and the neighborhood next to it, both gone.
Yeah. It reminded me of, there's a documentary, and I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but I know it's around. You might be able to find it on YouTube. It was a documentary about this housing project called Pruitt-Igoe. I want to say it was in St. Louis, somewhere near St. Louis. And it was an urban housing project, and it was engineered. They brought in some Japanese engineers after World War II and had them build this futuristic looking, at the time, high-rise housing tenement. And they were like, well, all the people that the urban inner city people will be able to have a really nice place, and they show you like the design drawings, and like how they had a park, like a courtyard in the middle of it, and it was supposed to be really nice. It was supposed to be a really nice place for people who live in the inner city to be able to enjoy their lives. It was great for a few years until they decided, well, wait a minute, all of our so-called white constituents are moving out of this area because they're seeing these Negroes show up. So they're moving to the suburbs. All these cookie cutter houses they built outside of the city, just outside in the suburbs. That's where the so-called white folks were moving. So the tenement got filled up with Negroes in the mid to late 60s. And so once that happened, the city cut off funding for maintenance. They cut off funding for security. So you started having situations like the elevator not working, AC units in the building didn't work half the time. Everything started to go into disarray. Then they also brought in, at the same time, they also brought in the institution of relief, or what they now call welfare. So this meant that any family in Pruitt-Igoe that was getting relief had to have the father not be home. That was part of the stipulation. Couldn't be, if you were a mother of 2 or 3 kids, your father couldn't be there with you. That was the stipulation for you needing to have that type of a stipend. So to get the money, the fathers either moved out completely or would leave during the day when they went to work and leave and take any trace of them being there with them. So eventually you had a bunch of homes, you had a bunch of households there in that tenement with no fathers. Children growing up with no fathers while all of this is happening. So the mothers have to go to work now to try to make ends meet. So these children that are essentially latchkey kids and growing up on their own in a dilapidated high-rise tenement that's falling apart. People peeing in the elevator shafts and stuff like that. So then as the drugs start coming in the late 60s, early 70s or so, now you got a crime element that's beginning to burn the place like wildfire. So now this high-rise housing tenement that was seen as this futuristic answer to how do you house an urban community is now a lesson in why you don't keep Negroes around, because this is what Negroes do. This is what Negroes are. Again, all the so-called white folks have moved out of the city to the suburbs. So you see how, even though it's not necessarily our doing, you see how we end up being made the scapegoat for projects that go bad. And this is happening over like 2 generations, between like the 50s and like the late 70s. I think the 70s got torn down. I don't quote me on that, but I believe in the documentary it said it got torn down on that. But you can see how over a generation, it doesn't take long, you have this really nice community turn into shambles, get raised, and now they're building other stuff around it because, they want commerce. They want to not have this blight that is a sore thumb and full of bad memories for the community. It's not just happening in Pruitt-Igoe. That was a template for it. We're seeing it here. Grandin Park, Norfolk, Bowling Park, in the Dub, and in Ida Barber, in Portsmouth, Swanson Home. What is Swanson Home now? It's a ghost town. Yeah, they hadn't already torn it down. Nobody lives back there.
It'll be something one day.
Right. And Virginia Beach has only been able to keep their housing projects around because they make them not look like housing projects. Like Twin Canal.
Yeah, buddy, Twin Canal.
I rolled into Twin Canal one night and I was like, wait a minute, where the hell am I at?
Look, we had friends from Portsmouth that ended up in Twin Canal. Friends of the family, I would say. Mm-hmm. And Twin Canal.
Bruh.
Infamous.
You drive past and you can't tell it from any other neighborhood.
Look at that apartment complex. They keep updating too. They will not let it look like a housing project.
No, but go back there. Go back there at 10:30 on a Friday night.
With them speed bumps.
Go. And then you're gonna be
fucking your axle up trying to get out of there.
For sure. Because and what's so crazy about it, right, is it's gated. So it's almost like, well, wait a minute, these people must be doing pretty well. It's a gated community. No, the gates keep them in.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying? It's like that. It's like that one song, Cell Therapy by the Goody Mob. It's just they put the gate to keep crime out, to keep out. It's just in.
Yep, exactly. That definitely made the favorites playlist because of that. It's relevant. It's still relevant every day, all day.
It really is. So they hide it from sight, and that allows them to keep it there without having to tear it down. Because people visit Virginia Beach. I mean, it's a tourist city, right? People are going there, to the beach, and they go to places like that. They're just driving by. They don't know what's in there. So as long as they don't know this is the projects, they keep it moving, and nobody's worried about being in a bad element.
Exactly.
But look at what happened. Look at what's going on in Norfolk, though. And they're building luxury apartments in their place.
Yep.
It's not even housing that those people would be able to afford
to come back to. They're definitely going to be on the streets because they said like the more you move outward, the less housing there is, and then the further away you get, you're going to be asking regular people that are renting houses out or apartments, do you take vouchers? And some places don't take vouchers.
Exactly.
So where are you really going to end up?
Mm-hmm. So what happens when Newport News, a little bit further up the peninsula, gets these people?
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll be complaining about all, you'll start seeing on the nightly news, well, this happened in Newport News, that happened in Newport News.
Yep.
And now these neighborhoods in Newport News are going to start becoming a blight. Just wait to see how long it's going to be before they start tearing those housing projects down and building luxury apartments.
Same thing. Yep.
I mean, like $1,600 a month rent that nobody in this area can afford unless you're in the military. Right. No voucher. No, you get no stipend for this unless it's from DOD.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, I mean, I don't mean to ramble on in this direction, but yeah, this is what happens when we stop being involved, when we just sit back and let the people in office do what they're going to do. In the end, it's like a lot of us have feared, a lot of us have warned about. If we don't have a say in it, if we don't forge our own destiny in this process, everybody else has an interest in getting rid of us, physically, economically, and socially. In every way, they don't want us around because we're in the way. The more of us there are here, the fewer resources are going to be for people coming here, and there are constantly people coming here, whether we like it or not. And if we don't, and that's nothing against immigrants, because I mean this place has harbored immigrants since before any of the governments were here. People have always been coming here to trade and to live. That's not the problem. The problem is if we don't have a voice in this, we won't have a voice in anything because we won't be here.
Greetings, everyone. How's everyone doing this afternoon? Hey there, Gabrielle. I know we've been gone for a while, everyone, but we've been in the scenes, actually getting some work done, working with the farmers of the community, looking forward to this presentation at the No Grandma Killers tour on the 3rd and 4th. Other than that, been business as usual. How you doing, Gabrielle? Yes, another one of them hot days.
I don't think they can hear us.
Might check. Can we get some ones in the chat to make sure we got volume and everything coming through clearly? Ones in the chat.
Sound. Nope, I'm lying. It's a delay. My bad.
No problem. All right. Go ahead and give some shout outs this evening or this afternoon before we get started. Greetings to Jafrida Gordon, what up, cuz? Michael Brown Harris Cheek, Macadon 1, Yo 47, American Indian Council, American Indian Versus, Cato Kane 7, Dion Lowe, Liz Robinson, Big Hawk, Nature's Void, Carrie Bay, Bonton South Dallas, And that's everyone I see right now at this moment. And as they come in, we'll catch them. So anything that you want to discuss before we get started? Or inform the audience on?
Where to begin? Okay. So if you want to do raised beds, find a furniture store, Walmart, or any place that stacks up on pallets. Reuse those pallets as your foundation to your raised beds, or you can even cut them to do your sides of your raised beds. You see mushrooms in your pots, in your raised beds, your containers. Mushrooms are good. Mushrooms are good for the soil. They're good for the plants. It's a whole lot of stuff. It's hot out there, so have plenty of water. But yeah.
That's right there, firing up. We're gonna get ready to go ahead and post the link for the day so we get started.
Eyes ready.
Okay, link is in the chat, and I'm bringing it over on the screen. So
Okay.
whenever you're ready, we begin. And today we'll be going through slave law in Colonial Virginia, basically going through a brief timeline of the slave laws and what they entail.
I got it up.
No problemo.
All right, you ready for me to read?
Yep, we can go ahead and dive in.
All right. Slave law in Colonial Virginia, a timeline. 1607, Jamestown, the first British North American settlement, was founded in Virginia. That's 1607. 1619, the first African American arrived in Jamestown, Virginia.
So they say.
Right. 1640, Virginia courts sentence a black runaway servant, John Punch, to serve his said master for the time of his natural life.
But you notice what's interesting real quick, Gabrielle? In 1619, they want you to believe they were saying African, but in 1640, they were saying black.
Right.
Just a quick tangerine.
Absolutely. 1660, Virginia law enacted on English running away with Negroes.
Here we go again. So they done went from African to black, not Negroes.
Right. We're not even out of the 1700s. This is just, matter of fact, this is just in 60 years.
Well, we know the African American term was not used in 1619, so.
Correct.
Welcome back, no sellout.
Double cousin.
Peace. Man, 40 minutes? Oh, man, I was about to say grand rising. Grand afternoon, everybody. Peace to the chats. How y'all doing? Let me guess, I missed the shout out. You did a roll call already, Bones?
Yeah. We can do another one in a little bit.
Okay. Got y'all. Appreciate everybody for being here today. What's the day? Friday? All right, I'm going to go on mute.
It seemed like it, feel like it.
Well, as hot as it is, something outside frying. I know that much.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking. My bad. I ain't mean to interrupt. Peace, y'all. Peace.
I want to put an egg on the sidewalk just to see what would happen.
I guess in that point, it's up to you. Hard, scrambled, soft, side up.
I just want to see how hot it is. All right, 1660, Virginia law enacted on English running away with Negroes. Be it enacted that in case any English servant shall run away in company with any Negroes who are incapable of making satisfaction by addition of time, be it enacted that the English so running away in company with them shall serve for the time of the said Negro's absence as they are to do for their own by a former act. I find it interesting that it says that in case any English servant.
Oh, you mean in English for servants? Uh-oh.
1662, Virginia law enacted on runaways. Whereas there are diverse loitering runaways in this country who very often absent themselves from their master's service, and sometimes in a long time cannot be found. That loose of the time and the charge in the seeking them often exceeding the value of their labor. Be it therefore enacted that all runaways that shall absent themselves from their said masters shall be liable to make satisfaction by service after the times by custom or indentured is expired. Double their times of service so neglected. And if the time of their running away was in the crop or the charge of recovering them extraordinary, the court shall limit a longer time of service proportionable to the damage the master shall make appear he hath sustained. He hath sustained. And because the adjudging the time they should serve is often referred unto the time by indentured is expired, when the proof of what is due is very uncertain. It is enacted that the master of any runaway that intends to take the benefit of this act shall, as soon as he hath recovered him, carry him to the next commissioner and there declare and prove the time of his absence and the charge he hath been at in his recovery, which commissioner thereupon shall grant his certificate, and the court on the certificate pass judgment for the time he shall serve for his absence. In any case, any English servant shall run away in company of any Negroes who are incapable of making satisfaction by addition of a time. It is enacted that the English so running away in the company with them shall at the time of service to their own masters expired serve the masters of the said Negroes for their absence so long as they should have done by this act if they had not been slaves, every Christian in company serving his proportion. And if the Negroes be lost or die in such time of their being run away, the Christian servants in company with them shall be proportioned among them. Either pay £4,500 of tobacco and cask or fewer years service for every Negro so lost or dead.
Talk about it.
So in truth, one of the things that's going through my mind is anybody was up for grabs. I could be walking down the street, see someone, snatch them up and say, hey, this is my servant, no matter how much they dispute it, depending on who was being categorized by back then. In addition to, this sounds like they're talking about three, maybe four different different people.
Well, look at it. They're talking about Europeans and Indians, basically. They can try to change it to African Americans, but we know they were saying Negro. And we know Indians and a lot of other Europeans were classified as Negro.
Right.
And it's actually directly from the law. That's why it's written in English at that time.
It's also interesting to see the spellings of certain words.
Yeah, because that's how they spelled that. That was the English at that time.
But this also, am I reading this correctly? When there is a type of reimbursement for someone who has run away or has been lost?
Mm-hmm. So if Europeans or Christians ran away with them, then they will hold them responsible. So they would either have to pay back the debt or work the debt off. That's if they were Christians. But if they were slaves, yeah, they worked the debt off. So you would do your time. And once you do your time, you would go serve the time for said Negro master.
Hmm.
Seemed like there was a whole lot of enslaving going on.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. 1662, huh?
Yeah, Indians enslaving Indians and Europeans, Europeans enslaving Europeans and Indians.
Yeah, both sides. 1662, Virginia law enacted. Negro women's children to serve according to the condition of the mother. Whereas some doubts have arisen whether children got by any Englishman upon a Negro woman should be slave or free. Be it therefore enacted and declared by this present Grand Assembly that all children born in this country shall be held bond or free only according to the condition of the mother, and that if any Christian shall commit fornication with a Negro man or woman, he or she so offending shall pay double the fines imposed by the Farmer Act. Question. Okay, question.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's say I'm an Englishman. I'm a woman, but just for the sake of this question, let's say I'm an English man and I'm a servant. I'm an English man and I'm an English servant. I'm an Englishman servant, right? And I have a child with a woman, a Negro woman who is not a slave or a servant. That child would be what the mother is, right?
Correct.
So wouldn't it make more sense in 1662 being enacted that this was implemented? Wouldn't it make more sense to have a child with an Indian who again, because the children are declared by what their mother is. So if the mother was not a servant or a slave, wouldn't it make sense to have a child with a woman who was not a servant or a slave?
Whole lot of mixed people now.
A whole lot of.
Because that, being that this was enacted, that would ensure that the servitude or the enslavement of the child wouldn't be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't this put out there even more that there were plenty of women who were not slaves?
Uh-huh. Plenty of men and women who weren't slaves.
Correct.
Just think about it. This is pre-1790. 1790 federal census only had what, 4 categories? Free white male, free white woman, all others free, and slaves. All others free. Need we say more?
Right. Mm. 1667. Oh, this feels like this is about to get extremely good. Okay, 1667, Virginia law enacted declaring that baptism of slaves doth not exempt them from bondage. Whereas some doubts have risen whether children that are slaves by birth and by the charity and pity of their owners made partakers of the blessed sacrament of baptism should by virtue of their baptism be made free, it is enacted and declared by this grand assembly and the authority thereof that the conferring of baptism does not alter the condition of the person as to his bondage or freedom. That diverse masters, freed from this doubt, may more carefully endeavor the propagation of Christianity by permitting children, those slaves or those of growth, if capable, to be admitted to that sacrament. That's interesting. So at a time, baptism, if someone were a servant or a slave, baptism was a way out up until this.
Sorry about that. I had a call real quick.
No, I was just saying, up until 1667, if someone was getting baptized, that was giving them their freedom? That freed them from servitude or slave?
If it wasn't, why would they come and make a law saying that
Right.
it doesn't anymore? You don't make laws for things that people are not doing.
Right. 1669, Virginia law enacted, an act about the casual killings of slaves. Whereas the only law enforced for the punishment of refractory servants, A, resisting their master, mistress, or overseer cannot be inflicted upon Negroes, nor the abstency of many of them by other than violent means suppressed. Being enacted and declared by this grand assembly, if any slaves resist his master or other by his master or order correcting him, and by the extremity of the correction should chance to die, that his death shall not be accompanied felony, but the master or that other person appointed by the master to punish him be acquit from molestation, since it cannot be presumed that propensed malice, which only makes murder felony, should induce any man to destroy his own estate.
Interesting.
Question. Okay. Question.
Uh-huh.
This is 1669. Now, I do get that the terminology him, and a lot of times is even though it's him, it means he or she. Okay. However, a thought during this time, it's not until, if I'm remembering correct, until the 1700s where you start seeing a flood of women being brought over. Before that time, it was men, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So my next question is, referring to all this, what we're reading about is the enslavement or servitude of men, right?
Now you still have some women at this time, just not as many coming over.
Now, would the same go for English women, even English servants, women who were servants and or slave, if they had a child by an Indian man, because he would be deemed what his mother is, right? So his mother is free. That would make him free. Would that go to that wouldn't go for the same if a woman was in servitude or considered a servant or slave? That wouldn't go for the same for her child, right?
Uh-huh.
That would make her child a servant or slave, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Now, what happens when you're moving between particular territories and what they deem slave changes from area to area?
right. Huh. 1672. The King of England encourages the Royal African Company to expand the British slave trade. Within 16 years, the company transports nearly 90,000 Africans to the Americas.
You know, it's very interesting about this. 1672. I remember when we was reading and we read the qualifications for a so-called African, aka Portuguese, to be transported over here. That they had to be born in Portugal or Spain. They had to be a Christian.
Right.
So technically, these would be Portuguese or Iberians or Spaniards.
Correct.
Just for the record.
Correct. Which is at the top. That's not South Africa.
And if you think about it, it's only 90,000 for the next 16 years.
Right.
Something wrong with these numbers. When they try to tell you millions.
Hmm. Hmm. 1680, Virginia law enacted, an act for preventing Negro insurrections. Whereas the frequent meeting of considerable numbers of Negro slaves under pretense of feast and burials is judged of dangerous consequence, for prevention whereof for the future, be it enacted by the King's most excellent majesty, by and with the consent of the General Assembly, and it is hereby enacted by the authority aforesaid that from and after the publication of this law, it shall not be lawful for any Negro or other slave to carry or arm himself with any club, staff, gun, sword, or any other weapon of defense or offense, nor to go or depart from of his master's ground without a certificate from his master, mistress, or overseer, and such permission not be granted but upon particular and necessary occasion. And every Negro or slave so offending, not having a certificate as aforesaid, shall be sent to the next constable who is hereby enjoined and required to give the said Negro 20 lashes on his bare back, well laid on, and so sent home to his said master, mistress, or overseer. And it is further enacted by the authority aforesaid that if any Negro or other slave shall presume or lift up his hand in opposition against any Christian, shall for every such offense, upon due proof made thereof by the oath of the party before a magistrate, have and receive 30 lashed on his bare back, well laid on. And it is hereby further enacted by the authority aforesaid that if any Negro or other slave shall absent himself from his master's service and lie hid and lurking in obscure places, committing injuries to the inhabitants, and shall resist any person or persons that shall be any lawful authority be employed to apprehend and take the said Negro, that then in case of such resistance it shall be lawful for such person or persons to kill the said Negro or slave so lying out and resisting, and that this law be once every 6 months published at the respective county courts and parish churches within this colony. Question. 1680, and it
Maybe
says
an
in the colony.
Uh-huh.
Now, 1680, all these states that we know to be established states now did not exist.
You got that right.
We don't, in 1680, we don't even have the establishment of the South, right?
Timeline.
You know it.
So my question is this. This is only in reference to within their colonies, right?
Correct.
This is only in reference to and only established for and only this is only for the people. This only pertains to the people in their colonies, right?
Uh-huh. In their territory.
Right. 1680, right?
Yeah, but you know what else is interesting?
Huh.
This whole time I thought mistress means something else, just to learn that mistress is just the female name of a female that owns slaves.
Correct. This is correct.
And also they're saying Negro and other slaves. And not to mention, they're saying Negro and African separating them.
Yep.
Very interesting that in 1680, we know they wasn't saying African. We know who these people are. But
Right.
even in the records, they're letting you know there's different people.
Right.
They're letting you know even in the writings what they consider African at this time and a Negro are two different people.
Right. Now, here's my thing. Why would a slave feel the need to fight back? Why would a slave, a servant, why would you ban any type of weapons, club, staff, gun, or sword, or any other weapons of defense or offense? Why would you need to put a law in place against people who supposedly know that they're slaves?
But you got to remember what they're talking about here. They're talking about Negroes.
Correct.
Indians were classified as Negroes.
Correct.
And it shows you, you know that thing, how they try to tell you slaves got beat and this and that? It shows you even here what that pertains to. It pertains to Negroes or slaves picking up arms or being defiant. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny they try to give you stories that, oh yeah, they were just beating you in the field all day. I said before, how you gonna beat somebody mama, then go to bed and expect for them to fix your breakfast in the rising? Would nobody be left in the house?
Yeah. 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 (1682) Virginia laws enacted. Act 1. It is enacted that all servants which shall be imported into this country either by sea or by land, whether Negroes, Moors, Muslim North Africans, mulattoes, or Indians, who and whose parentage.
Hold up. See, you read that too fast together. But they shall be imported in this country either by sea or land, whether Negroes, Moors, parentheses, they consider Moors Muslims of North Africa.
Correct.
Again, Moors are Muslims of North Africa. Mulattoes are Negroes who, simple. Oh, you can continue. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. By sea or by land, whether Negroes, Moors, Muslim North Africans, mulattoes, or Indians who and whose parentage and native countries are not Christian at the time of their first purchase by some Christian, and all Indians which shall be sold by our neighboring Indians or any other trafficking with us for slaves are hereby adjudged, deemed, and taken to be slaves to all intents and purposes, any law, usage, or custom to the contrary notwithstanding.
Hold it now. Is this stating in record that Indians were selling Indians to Indians and others?
Yep.
Excuse me?
It's getting hot in here.
I'll read that part again.
Huh?
I'll read the whole thing again. Act 1. It is enacted that all servants which shall be imported into this country either by sea or by land, whether Negroes, Moors, Muslim North Africans, mulattoes, or Indians who or and whose parentage and native countries are not Christian at the time of their first purchase by some Christian, and all Indians which shall be sold by our neighboring Indians or any other trafficking with us for slaves are hereby adjudged, deemed, and taken to be slaves to all intents and purposes, any law, usage, or custom to the contrary notwithstanding.
Oh, Nelly. And it's very interesting again that in this act, Negroes is also referring to Europeans.
Correct.
Uh-oh. Because it's telling you all servants, and then it's breaking them down to be more specific. You dirty rat.
Okay, give me, what's XIX?
19.
Okay, there we go. 19, Act 19. And for a further prevention.
Oh, wait. I could be wrong. Hold on, wait a minute. I might have said that wrong. You said XIX?
Yep.
Just say XIX. I'll get back to you.
Okay, XIX. Act XIX. And for a further prevention of that abominable mixture and spurious issue, which hereafter may increase in this Her Majesty's colony and dominion, as
correct.
Well, huh?
That was correct, 19.
Okay, good job, double cousin.
I'll be doing stuff, yeah.
You know how to count. I could learn from you. Okay, So Act XIX, Act 19, and for a further prevention of that abominable mixture and spurious issue, which hereafter may increase in this Her Majesty's colony and dominion, as well by English and other white men and women intermarrying with Negroes or mulattoes, as by their unlawful coercion with them, be it enacted by the authority aforesaid, and it is hereby enacted, that whatsoever English or other white man or woman, being free, shall intermarry with a Negro or mulatto man or woman, bond or free, shall, by judgment of the county court, be committed to prison, and there remain during the space of 6 months without bail or main prize, and shall forfeit and pay 10 pounds current money of Virginia to the use of the parish as aforesaid.
Uh-oh.
All right, double cousin, I need you to count again. Act XXXIV.
Oh, that's 34.
Yep.
Okay, 34. There you go. See, counting high. I only got 10 fingers. Actually, I got 8 fingers and 2
Well, the X is 10, Gabrielle, and 3 10s is 30, and you already know IV is 4. So you got 34 there.
Okay.
35, 47.
Act 34. And if any slave resist his master or owner or other person by his or her order correcting such slave, and shall happen to be killed in such correction, it shall not be accounted felony, but the master, owner, and every such other person so giving correction shall be free and acquit of all punishment and accusation for the same. Accusation for the same, as if such accident had never happened. And also, if any Negro, mulatto, or Indian, bond or free, shall at any time lift his or her hand in opposition against any Christian, not being Negro, mulatto, or Indian, he or she so offending shall, for every such offense proved by the oath of the party, receive on his or her bare back 30 lashes, well laid on, cognizable by a justice of peace for that county wherein such offense shall be committed.
There you go again. If they get hit with lashes, that's because they picked up arms.
But you know what I'm also reading here, and just tell me wrong if I'm processing this wrong. A Christian can hit another Christian. A Negro could hit another Negro. A mulatto could hit another mulatto. An Indian could hit another Indian. However, a Negro couldn't hit a Christian.
As long as the Christian isn't a Negro or mulatto or Indian.
Right. So all these different categories, everybody could.
Crime by proximity. Ain't that how it happened today?
That's how I was going there, because I was like, hold on, wait, what? What year is this? 1682? This is okay.
Just think about it. Even how it is today, people would generally live around where they're comfortable. So you would have Christians living in Christian neighborhoods, mulattoes around mulattoes, Indians still around Indians, Negroes around Negroes. And remember, when they say Negroes, a lot of time, at this time, you're talking about Italians, Germans, Russians, Chinese. Everyone that didn't get their white status until the 1900s is a Negro at this time.
Right.
Oh, we could.
1698. The English Parliament ends the monopoly of the African slave trade by the Royal African Company. As a result, the number of Africans transported to the British colonies increases from 5,000 to 45,000 a year. England becomes the largest trafficker in slaves in the Western world. Bones, got a question. Now, am I to understand a monopoly is when you have a lock on something? So, when it says that the English Parliament ends the monopoly of the African slave trade by the Royal African Country
Hold on, wait a minute, wait.
Company, the
I
Royal
need a
African
timeline on
Company.
that
So
one.
the Royal African Company had it on lock, right?
That's what it sounds like, right? When you say monopoly, when you monopolizing.
So, question. Hold on, I need a calculator.
You had a
I need a
question within a
calculator.
question.
Hold on, I need a calculator. I need to pull this calculator up real quick. And here's why I say this. Calculator. Let's
You
see.
talking to the calculator? Or you
That
talking to
company
us?
didn't get established until
5,000
1660. You heard me?
times
Yeah, what's the year,
16
Bones?
Hold on. The company did not get established until 1660 by the Stuart family and the City of London merchants. They trade along the west coast of Africa. It was led by the Duke of York, who was the brother of Charles II, and later took the throne as James II.
1660. Now, 5,000 slaves, I just calculated 5,000 times 16, which would be 5,000 times 16 years.
Years, right? Yes. Okay.
Years. Because in 1672, the King of England encourages the Royal African Company to expand the British slave trade. Within 16 years of the company, transport nearly 90,000 Africans to the Americas. So, going back down to this, if I'm the Royal African Company had the slave trade on lock. The English Parliament says, "Oh, we got to end this monopoly you got." The British colonies, they increase from 5,000 to 45,000 a year. (1698, 1672). So
That contract lasted to 1688.
Yep. And then 10 years after that, wow. England becomes the largest trafficker in slaves in the Western world.
So now the question is, where are the records to these slaves and where did they go?
Right.
Or could they be talking about the people that they moved along the islands?
Right. 1705. The Virginia. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's going on, David?
Coriander. That's Coriander.
What's up, family? Regular scheduled program.
1705. The Virginia General Assembly declared all servants imported and brought into the country who were not Christian in their native country shall be accounted and be slaves. All Negro, mulatto, and Indian slaves within this dominion shall be held to be real estate. if any slave resist his master, correcting such slave, and shall happen to be killed in such correction, the master shall be freed of all punishment, as if such accident never happened. You know, every time I read this, I'm reading this, I'm all right. 1705. The
But before
Virginia.
you go on, remember though, before you go on, just remember, it ties into what we read about Spain and Portugal. That what did they deem? That no one from that continent can come directly to the Americas. That
Right.
they had to be born in Spain or Portugal, and they had to be Christian. That's the only way a so-called African at this time was making it to the mainland.
Right.
And then we keep saying African, but we got to realize if you trace it back, they're Portuguese or Iberians that got later on reclassified because they were not using that term at this time. We didn't become legally African Americans until 2000.
Say it one more time for me.
We did not legally become African Americans until 2000. The first time it was put on the census.
Correct.
Application.
Questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, please contact us at conscientiousassembly@gmail.com. Man, when was the last time I said that?
Read.
1705. 17. I was reading. 1705.
To us.
Yeah, I know, right? The Virginia General Assembly declared, and be it further enacted, that no minister of the Church of England or other minister or person whatsoever within this colony and dominion shall hereinafter wittingly presume to marry a white man with a Negro or mulatto woman, or to marry a white woman with a Negro or mulatto man, upon pain of forfeiting and pain. For every such marriage, the sum of 10,000 pounds of tobacco, 1/2 to our sovereign lady the queen, her heirs and successors, for and towards the support of the government and the contingent charges thereof, and the other half to the informer, to be recovered with costs by action of debt, bill, plaint, or information in any court of record within her majesty's colony and dominion, wherein no accession, protection, or wager of law shall be allowed. You know, I noticed that one of the things of payment is tobacco.
That should tell you something. Who was marrying these so-called slaves? Because it wasn't no poor Europeans, because they didn't own no tobacco plantations.
Correct.
So who was going to marry it? It was people that was able to afford the fines, the so-called wealthy class.
And how are you? Yeah, because it's real interesting that the payment is tobacco.
Most of the times it was tobacco, pounds of tobacco.
What were they doing? They were over here harvesting tobacco. That was the
Right.
money at the time.
They're not
Who would you
saying
be
pay
charging
with.
this to?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the question is, who would you be charging this to? Think about
Right.
it. A European that was sent over here as an indentured or a slave, they can't pay that price.
Correct.
It lets you know, it gives you a glimpse to what was really going on.
So would it be correct in thinking that they're making laws against the tribes, against the tribes that they're trading with, that they're interacting with, that they're doing business with? They're making laws against Indians and what they will pay.
Not just Indians. Look at it like this. This is the first recorded case of like workers harassment in a sense.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So now the employer can't be caught messing with the employee.
Got you.
Because that's all it is. The employers messing around with the employees. Getting married, having children.
Got you.
Fraternizing.
Got you.
With the help.
Pimp stuff.
You better know it.
The 1705 code, which would, hold on. Question. Wait a minute. Was tobacco back then a blanket word?
What was the question again?
Was tobacco back then a blanket word?
Tobacco was a crop. Basically, what it is today, that's what it was back then.
Okay, so
remember,
what did they call wacky tobacco back then?
Wacky tobacco.
That's major cannabis. But no, tobacco was tobacco back then, right? It was still called tobacco.
I'm just asking. I just started thinking about it.
A lot of the plantations, which plantation is nothing but another word for colony. They were doing tobacco.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. The 1705 code, which would also... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Wait, I'm still here. Give me, not just answering the call. Take me 5 minutes, but I'm still here.
Okay. The 1705 code, which would also serve as a model for other colonies, went even further. The law imposed harsh physical punishments since enslaved persons who did not own property could not be required to pay fines. It stated that slaves needed written permission to leave their plantation, that slaves found guilty of murder or rape would be hanged, for robbing or any other major offense. The slave would receive 60 lashes and be placed in stocks where his or her ears would be cut off, and that for minor offenses such as associating with whites, slaves would be whipped, branded, or maimed. Question.
Ears cut off.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Question. Because we still in 1705 right now. Now, wouldn't it be correct in thinking that when they're talking about hanging, cutting ears off, and lashing, that again, this is towards who are considered slaves and servants? Wouldn't that mean that there were English people, there were Iberians, there were Spaniards being hung, ears cut off, and lashed?
I believe some American Indians got caught up in that dance too.
I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. But this shows this is still within the territory, within the colony. This is 1705. All of the South isn't established. All these other states that we know today are not established yet. So this is still within, this is Virginia.
Bring me on home, Gabby. Bring me on home.
So, okay. This is 1705. We're still in Virginia. These are Virginia laws. Okay. So all the territory that is considered Virginia, all the people that are encompassed in this territory that is Virginia at this time. Basically, instead of just looking at it as Indians were hung, instead of looking at it as just Indians, as far as whatever happened, if there was a battle or a war or whatnot, a battle that happened where a tribe or people from a tribe were captured and enslaved, or servitude, or whatever the case may be, wouldn't it, because we're talking about Virginia and the territory at this time of what was considered Virginia, this includes everybody in it, not just Indians. This is a punishment handed to everyone in that territory.
The have-nots.
Right, the haves and the have-nots. Okay, I'm reading. I'll go back to that question when Bones come back. Excuse me. 1723. Virginia's anti-assembly law impeded Negroes from meeting or having a sense of community. Can't congregate together, huh?
Tulsa.
Go ahead.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
1723. Virginia's weapons law forbade Negroes from keeping weapons. Now, why would you need to do that?
Because we mistreating them people. We get them some weapons, they will kill us off. Shit. Like Bones say, you mistreat me all my life, and then you want me to dance with you at the fight, and you're gonna give me a pistol. All right.
1723 again.
Where's the gun line, boss?
I know, right? The Virginia colony enacted laws to limit the increase of free Negroes to those who were born into that class or manumitted by special acts of the legislator. Free Negroes were denied the right to vote and forbidden to carry weapons of any sort.
They took my bow and arrow. They took my hatchet.
It says that the Virginia colony enacted laws to limit the increase of free Negroes to those who were born into that class or manumitted by special acts of legislature. Free Negroes were denied the rights to vote and forbidden to carry weapons of any sort. Hmm. 1750. Virginia passes laws defining the distinction between a slave and a servant, regulating all slaves to the status of property. Let me go through this chart real quick. Slavery and the law in Virginia, the growth of the Black population. 1625, 23. 1648, 300. 1671, 2000. 1680, 3000. 1700, 6,000, 16,390. 1720, 26,559. 1730, 30,000. 1740, 60,000. 1775, 210,000. Is it 1775 right before 1776?
Correct.
Timeline.
And what happened in 1776?
America. Okay.
Okay, it's real interesting to see that in 1740 they've got 60,000, and then they'll have nothing between 1740, no charts or anything between 1740 and 1775. So you jump from 1740 to 1775, you go from 60,000 to 210,000.
Where all them people come from?
Them new territories that they just took over and made states.
Now, glad you back, Bones. I got a question. I'm gonna read this off and I'm gonna ask a question again. Okay. It says the 1775 code, which would also serve as a model for other colonies, went even further. The law imposed harsh physical punishments, since enslaved persons who did not own property could not be required to pay fines. It stated that slaves needed written permission to leave their plantation, that slaves found guilty of murder or rape would be hung, that for robbing or any other major offense, that the slave would receive 60 lashes and be placed in stocks, where his or her ears would be cut off, and that for minor offenses such as associating with whites, slaves would be whipped, branded, or maimed. Now, this is all within the Virginia colonies, within the Virginia territory, right?
Correct.
And at this time in 1705, because we haven't hit 1790, we haven't hit the 1790 census yet. In 1705, when they're referring to whites, it's not what we think it is now. It's not the impression or the perception of what we may think it is now. Right. It was a status. Wouldn't it be safe to think that there were English immigrants, people who were coming from other land masses, not just Indians, other places that were considered slaves or servants, that were being hung, having their ears cut off, and going through these same punishments?
Correct.
So would it also be safe to say that when we're going over this, instead of looking at it as a so-called black and so-called white, look at it across the board, that this was anybody who was in the Virginia colony and the Virginia territory, this is who it applied to? Everyone across the board?
Correct.
Okay. So if let's say I were to pull something that showed someone being hung, please don't tell me that's rain. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ooh, piece of candy.
I'm sorry. I heard thunder, and I gotta bring my sauce. So sorry.
Yeah, I know. Look, we've been off for so long.
All right.
Well, personal time is everybody's time now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my bad. So sorry.
These thoughts are your thoughts. Your thoughts
These
are
thoughts
my
are
thoughts.
California.
Thank you, David Corey. And thank you, Gabrielle.
I think I do hear thunder. You don't even understand. I got saws and everything outside. Okay, okay, so my question was,
Skies are clear as hell. She heard thunder.
oh no, this weather been doing what it want to do. You get 2 hours of clear skies, no clouds, nothing, just straight sun. Walk in the house, and then you hear thunderstorms. Like, wait, where did these come from? And it's raining. It's been like this for almost 2 weeks now. Okay, that's thunder. All right, let me ask this question, and then I gotta go on mute so I can pull this to the side. So if I were to pull something where it shows someone, it describes and then shows a picture attached to that, or a drawing or something that someone has put together from the 1700s. um, from between 1705 to even if I go off of 1705 to 1750, would it be safe to say that I may not be looking at a pictorial depiction of an Indian? It could be anybody. And what I'm reading on could be anyone, right?
Going by the status at the time.
Correct.
Because you got to remember, Indians were considered Negroes, but not all Negroes were Indians. Again, Indians could be considered Negroes, but not all Negroes are Indians.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
That's why they break it down and show you the difference between the two. Just like you see in their writings, what you consider African is completely different than what you would consider a Negro. Because all Africans aren't Negroes either.
I'm a little slow, deaf, dumb, and mute. Can you come again?
All Africans are not Negroes. And because when they're talking about Africa at this time, they're talking about the coast and what you know as North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula. Everyone from that landmass isn't a Negro. You know that by the Berbers. You have Berbers at that time that are blonde hair, blue eyes, that have always been there. Last I checked, all South Africans aren't Negroes either, huh? And it's 2020. You know, the people that can actually wear the title African American and it fits.
Y'all always wanted to steal somebody else's identity.
Because again, what would you consider a Chinese before they created the category for Chinese? A Negro. What would you consider? No, I'm talking in America at the time. Think about it. You only got 4 categories: white males, free white males, free white women, all others free, and slaves. So now if Walter Plecker and all these people are telling you there's only 2 categories, white and black, what would you consider Chinese before they got the status of white? Negro. Same thing they call Irish, Negroes, Italians, Negro. Even Jews were considered Negroes until they considered them white, y'all. Uh-oh. Did we go a little bit too far?
Put a new spin on things.
Anybody there? Hello?
Questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections, please email attentionassembly@gmail.com.
Better yet, call the number.
Well, yeah, we zooming right now.
Like they said in the chat, it's nothing but a caste system. That's it. And we talked about this a lot off air, that people run around calling people Chinese, but that's not what they call themselves. Them people call themselves Mandarin. The Dutch made up Chinese. Uh-oh.
Oh, I thought I heard one of them other YouTube chats.
And Gabrielle put something in the back chat that I'm gonna read over what she was saying. It sounds like officers getting off for crimes they committed that goes on today. But do you see, and I say that to show this, do you see where it stems from? Do you see where it goes back to? Do you see the policies and acts that allow this to keep going on?
one day we need to check out those democratic acts that they're trying to pass.
Oh, you know it's not no problem. And plus, I like to always take it back to the 13th Amendment. Involuntary servitude or slavery is illegal unless convicted of a crime. So that means there's voluntary servitude. Uh-oh.
Y'all want to do this stuff?
So, is it safe to say the same rules and punishment apply to voluntary servitude?
Yep.
You willingly wanted to do it. You willingly put yourself there. We did.
So, what I'm saying is this. If a voluntary servant lift his hands and arms at a particular person in society, wouldn't these same rules apply?
A hireling. Shout out to Doodoo.
You know, like an involuntary servant arguing back with a police officer. Uh-oh. Why I got so quiet? Where everybody go? What's going on?
Thinking about Black Lives Matter.
I'm not even finna go there. We just started back today.
Somebody need to hear it.
Hush up now.
Hush your mind.
That's a whole nother conundrum over there.
Remember I told you? Hush, girl.
Yeah.
Hush now.
So it goes back to show you that how can they tell you now that all these slaves, melanated, and servants, whatnot, all came from Africa when the writings at that time are telling you that they all don't come from some place called Africa?
Nope, they come from Virginia colonies in the Virginia territory from 1607 to 1775.
In question, how were Indians buying Indians for slaves and they all supposed to be dead from smallpox in the 1700s? Can somebody please explain? Somebody, please help me.
Not it.
Help someone else understand this, please.
Not it. Double cousin.
What you got for me, no sellout? Help me figure this out. We got to find out how.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Other type of slaves and servants, and everybody keeps trying to say they going for smallpox. What, they buying them from the grave? Somebody help me.
What'd you put me over for?
Seems to me you hawking a little bit too loud.
I got another question.
Come on with it.
So this little timeline,
No, you're gonna call it my little timeline. All right, okay.
No. I'm talking about what they got on here. This chart
Look,
they got on here. This chart they got on here. So in 1625, if I just go off this chart, so I'm gonna go back and forth real quick. In 1625, they say that they have 23. It says slavery and the law in Virginia, the growth of the Black population. So in 1625, if I go
Well,
off
they're telling
this
you
chart,
right there, that's how they grew the Black population. They changed it from England.
I'm about to go back and forth on this one. 1625, slave and Black population was 23 in 1625. Now, if I go back up to this chart, in 1619.
That time you only supposedly had 23 Black slaves. So what was all the other slaves?
Now, in 1619, what does it say? The first African American arrived in Jamestown, Virginia. Now, question.
Air quotes. We know that ain't factual.
Right. So this in 1619, first African American arrived in Jamestown. This is right before 1625. So from 1619 to 1625, they accrued a total of 23 Black slaves, right?
Mm-mm.
They 3. If 20 came, And a couple of years later, there's 23 in total. They only had 3 more.
Okay. So they got on here 1648, 300. Let me go back up here. That's 1648. 1640, Virginia court sentenced a black runaway servant, John Punch, to serve his said master for the time of his natural life. Okay, let's see.
That's Obama people, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
That's old bones of people.
That's Obama's people.
And he need to stop saying that Punch was African, because when you check his genealogy, that's not what it says.
Right. So here's my thing. This timeline chart that they put on here, 1671. Let me see. We're 16. Okay. So 1672. So in 1671, this is when the numbers really go up. In 1671, it says they have 2,000 black population that is slaves, right? So if I go up to 1672, it says 1672, the King of England encourages the Royal African Company to expand the British slave trade. Within 16 years, the company transports nearly 90,000 Africans to the Americas. So in 1671, they only transported, and I'm not even looking at it as a black slave population. They only transported a total of 2,000 people to the Americas.
Yeah, this is not how many they bringing into Americas at the time. This is how many that's in the Virginia colony at this year.
And my thing is, their numbers from 1625 on their chart, from 1625 to 1675. So that's 150 years. In 150 years, you go from 23 slaves to 210 slaves. That is not a lot for 150 years.
Don't even say slaves. Say what these people are, blacks. And who was considered black back then? Portuguese.
Correct.
Make no mistake about it. When they're saying blacks in these years, they're talking about Portuguese. Because if you read their records again, no one came from North Africa directly from North Africa. No. Them people had children that were in Portugal, and them children were indoctrinated into the Catholic Church. Then they were able to come over.
Right. Because they couldn't come over unless they were indoctrinated.
Facts. That's in their own writings. That was their own law in order for them to come over.
Comments, concerns, and or corrections, please email us at attentionassembly@gmail.com.
And that's why the timeline is so important. Because in these years, when they're saying black, they're talking about the Portuguese.
Now
call the number.
I got another question. Because looking at this chart from 1625 to 1775, they were only able to have a total of 210. They got up to 210,000. This is only after what year did they? 1698. In 1698, the English Parliament ends the monopoly of the African slave trade by the Royal African Company. As a result, the number of Africans transported to the British colonies increased from 5,000 to 45,000 a year. England becomes the largest trafficker in slaves in the Western world. Now, the issue I'm having, and maybe I know I can't count. If they go from 5,000 to 45,000 a year, this chart that they're giving right here.
This chart only applies to Virginia colony. Remember, this chart is only for the Virginia colony.
So they was scraping, right?
Yeah. These are people who are identified as black in the Virginia colony. But then you also have to remember who's identifying these people.
Right.
You're not self-identifying. Someone else is.
Thank you, Bones.
This is pre-federal census, but you do have local census, county census, church census.
And they had to enact a law saying, look, once you baptize, people who get baptized, they can't become free no more. They getting over here, they baptizing themselves, they can't become free, right?
No. Step back from that.
Okay.
And that alone, it's telling on who they're talking about. Who had to be baptized in order to come to this country? The Portuguese.
Right.
So Portuguese people would get here, then try to get baptized and claim freedom. That's who they're talking about.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Think about it. At this time, you're setting up schools and you're teaching Indians about this. The Indians don't know about baptisms and all that like that yet. This is at the same time you're setting up these ministry schools to indoctrinate the Indians on this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's why y'all fight so hard. Go ahead, Mom.
You can't do something that you have no knowledge of. This is pertaining to Portuguese who came over, who were Catholics, or trying to convert to be Catholics to get out of bondage.
Why you fight back so hard when the preacher be trying to baptize you? You be trying to fight back, man. Don't push my head.
You see me under here.
No, you feel me trying to push your head back, boy.
Uh-oh. Got that bad? Everybody jumped out the window? Well, somebody throw me a rope, a ladder, something.
I'm falling out.
You like send down the sheets.
Gabby, you okay back there on the trailer?
Oh, I'm good. I'm cruising.
I mean, before we go ahead and get out of here this evening, last thoughts on what we went over?
Timelines. Hit you with a double cousin. Timelines.
I just want my daddy's records back.
I'm just excited to see everybody back around the towns. Oh, I got to give a piece to the. Let me piece to the chat. You know, I ain't got nothing to say about that.
Go ahead and get that out of the chat.
Bonton, South Dallas. Grand afternoon. I'm just gonna say peace to everybody. Peace, Carrie Bay. Peace.
Dion.
What is that?
Dion.
Peace. Joe 47. Peace. HTTR. Amir's dad. Peace. Welcome. Carrie Bay again. That's Carrie Bay again. And then, okay, Randy James. Peace. Peace to you, sir. Nature's Void. Peace. Grand afternoon. Danny Caramel. Peace. Macadon Juan. Peace. Who else we got? Michael Brown Harris Cheek. Peace. Let's see. S'mores in the s'mores.
Mayan son. Peace.
Who else we got in here? Who else? Original Tillers. Peace. Sowing seeds, harvesting, all that stuff.
Ancestor.
Yeah, Copper Color Ancestor, where you at? Peace. Doodoo Vision 2. Peace, sir.
Peace,
September's
sir.
coming soon to a state near you. Who else we got? Where we at? David Taylor. Peace. Grand rising and afternoon and week. And that's who we got that I see right now. Peace, y'all. People. Peace.
And me too. Peace,
David
David
Corey was in there. You know, I skipped over that name because you know you were shouting people out. Peace to David Corey as well in the chat and live on the call. Man, we done talk to David Corey 7 days a week. 7 days a week since we ain't been
It
on
was
air.
quiet this whole time.
But yeah, peace everybody. Peace, y'all. I ain't gotta say nothing else.
And just to fill in on something that Doodle Vision in the chat, Brother James was touching on, Angola is a Portuguese colony. Again, Angola is a Portuguese colony. Dun, dun, dun.
I got an Angolan friend. Hold up, man. What you say?
Angola is a Portuguese colony.
I used to think she was black and her mama was black. I ain't know. Well, that was before I knew anybody wasn't black, or I didn't know anybody was black. Well, you know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about.
Sound like that. Sound like. Well, I guess it's about that time, Dan. What you got for Gabrielle?
Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat. Peace to the silent majority. Actually, love to the panel. Love to the chat. Love to the silent majority. Continue on your genealogical journey. Know who you are so that no one can tell you who you are. Timelines. There are many things to be factored and considered when doing your genealogy. It's a lot in there, but definitely know who you are so that no one can tell you who you are. Pass that along to your children so that they know who they are, so that no one can tell them who they are. Pass it along to your family and to your friends. Again, know who you are so that no one can tell you who you are. It's a lot to it. It's a lot in it. And once you get to pulling stuff and reading stuff, things start to look a little bit different. But genealogy is key and it is important. Let no one tell you different. Genealogy is absolutely key and genealogy is absolutely important. You go doing your genealogy and you find out you've been home. So continue on your genealogical journey. Census Day. Census, the decennial census is extended out to October 31st. Do the census. If you haven't already done it, do it. Do the census, make yourself count so that you can count. One of many records that's pulled in genealogy is census records. So who will be looking for you 150 years from now? It's one of many reasons to do the census. Doing the census affects your local city, your county, your state. It affects your businesses, so many different aspects of life, from the roads to the hospitals to the schools, businesses that get set up in your area that weren't set up before. Do the census, make yourself count so that you can count. You've got the decennial census that has been extended out to October 31st. You've got the ACS census that happens every month and every year. It's sent out to select addresses. So if your address is selected, if your address is one of those addresses that is selected to do the ACS census, do that census because you are a representative for your neighbors, for your community, for your city. Do the census, make yourself count so that you can count. And then there's the agricultural census that comes up in 2022. That happens every 5 years. There are many different censuses out there, so do them. Get your voice out there. Get our voice out there. So yeah, with that being said, peace, love to the panel, love to the chat, love to the silent majority. And shout out to you, Double Cousin, for your wise words. Appreciate you. Our wounds are often the openings into the best and most beautiful part of us. Never be afraid to fall apart because it is an opportunity to rebuild ourselves the way we are meant to be. That's it. Double Cousin.
What you got on the line?
Huh? Mama said there'll be days like this. Mama said there'll be days like this. Honest to doo-doo.
Shout out, shout out. I don't have much to say. Peace to the chat. Everybody that I shouted out, everybody that's listening that I didn't shout out. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week. If we don't see you, man, Bones, are we shouting out? With them? No, I'll wait. Unless you, never mind. Yeah, peace to
Yeah,
everybody.
you can go ahead and let it be known. 'Cause I'm gonna speak
Oh
on it.
man, yeah. July 3rd and the 4th. July 3rd and 4th. No Grandma Killer Store, Atlanta. A2 will be in the place to be, which is that place I just said. Hold on, my bad. I'm doing all this with the windows down, seatbelt off. Hold it. Click it. All right. Or ticket. Mic check. No Grandma Killer Store. July 3rd and 4th. ATL Shawty. That's where we're gonna be at. Showcasing urban gardening, USDA, HUD Section 3, CDBGs, literally everything that we've ever talked about. We're doing it live. We're gonna be there live. Shout out to y'all if you show up. But you'll see us if you're there. You'll see us if you're not there. Peace,
Be
y'all.
there or be square.
Oh, we rolling deep too.
Player.
Oh, we rolling deep.
We rolling deep.
What you got for him, David Corey?
Nothing.
He said it all already. I get it. I understand. He said it.
Love y'all for real. Love y'all. Love y'all. Love y'all. Y'all ought to show up because I think this is gonna be a nice time. I think we're gonna have a nice time, y'all. Y'all show up. Please show up so we can show out. Peace.
All right. Thanks again for everyone on the panel. David Corey joining us. It's always feel good when you're talking from home. Shout out to the silent majority and the active chat. And I know since the last time we was live, a lot of things have happened in the country. A lot of things has happened in the country with protesting, COVID pops up here and there. But the one thing that we do know, if we stay the course and handle our responsibilities, we're going to be all right. Because make no mistake about it, if no Grandma's Killer Store, Thompson Assembly will be there. And we'll be there with the community showing what have we been doing in the background, in the communities, with our brothers and sisters. The ones that picked up and started urban gardening and farming to produce for themselves and producing a revenue stream for their communities. And not only will we be displaying what we have done, also providing information on how we done it. So after the presentation, any who want to follow the footsteps, it's plug and play.
Right.
Again, we are not here saying that we are right. We are here trying to get it right. Trying to get on this road to self-sufficiency, to where we can depend on ourselves, to where we can take on the responsibility of building our own communities. But in order for that to start, we must start having conversations. For too long, we have argued about the things that we do not see eye to eye. Isn't it time to start conversating about the things we do? The things that we do have in common that matters the most? So again, continue to work in your community. Continue to find the information today so that you can make it better for tomorrow. And no matter what no one may think and what anyone may say, hard work pays off. And the Thompsonist Assembly is still here as a reminder of what happens when brothers and sisters come together for a common goal. Hard work pays off. So until we link up again, look forward to seeing you, and peace.
Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Peace, y'all.
Atlanta, Georgia. This summer is officially about to be on fire. Remember when Grandma used to say you had Indian in you? Well, where did the Indian go? Get ready. The No Grandma Killers in the South Side. Make sure you mark your calendars for this upcoming major event. You definitely don't want to sleep on this one. Make sure you're in the building with the Wild Feathers family. We got the Sister Phoenix Moon, Tasha Sheep, Coach Crew Cut, Johnny Aborigine, Kerry Davis, Lisa Cypress, Gabriel Rich, Omar Crazy, and more surprise guests. Shout out to Chief County and Slim Bull, who'll definitely be in the building with more surprise guests and the Wild Indians. For all vendors looking to be a part of this event, make sure you contact 980-216-6693. Or for more information on this event and how to purchase your ticket, make sure you email www.nograndmakillers.com. July 3rd through the 4th, the No Grandma Killers Tour will be taking place at Space Condo Live, 737 Veterans Parkway, Suite 500, Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236. Yeah, it's definitely going down in ATL.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.